Hi, welcome to Professor Kev Show. I was just saying, I'm my buddy AJ with us, and he's from Reef Labs. Good afternoon, AJ. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
So before we jump in, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting out with kind of my experience in high school, I had two businesses while I was in high school focused on sneaker reselling, that kind of industry.
Oh,
Fell in love with entrepreneurship, never really worked, a typical minimum wage job like a lot of other high school students, and really fell in love with, being my own boss and being able to start an organization and see it grow. Was ultimately able to sell both of those businesses and kind of through that experience learned a lot about software development, building out automations to kind of help reduce our costs, all that, which ultimately led to kind of the idea for Reef Labs, which is what I'm working on now. And essentially, the whole concept behind that is, we're a custom software development agency, specifically focusing on kind of like helping professionals automate their workflows through AI. So, learned a lot from the other businesses about kind of automating super repetitive tasks, felt like I had a talent, felt like I had made a lot of contacts in the industry and trying to help out other founders and other business professionals, be able to help them out.
it's really interesting, when you see the power of AI and the amount of time we spend on routine tasks every day.
Yeah,
And again, a lot of people just don't know there's a way to automate those, so you don't have to do that.
exactly.
Even chatbots and all that. It's really amazing. Tell me about your experience so far, like things that you've been able to help people solve, so that people can understand what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a relatively new business. We started last Christmas, so only one semester long so far. And kind of at our founding, we've been trying to be as scrappy as possible, trying to pick up any projects just to be able to get the company off the ground, bring in referrals, all that stuff. So we've done stuff all the way from, super simple, relatively cheap, like $100 landing pages all the way up to data scraping for very large kind of businesses, and everything in between. But when it comes to, kind of like the workflow automation, one example of a project is we helped a babysitting company essentially make a system to connect babysitters to clients. And, before they did this all by hand, they manually did it on a spreadsheet. And by building out a system, we were able to create an algorithm that would match them based on location, kind of match them up and create that connection and automatically schedule all the appointments and stuff like that, saving them a lot of time from doing the manual work. And the other thing that I will say is that, one of our biggest learning experiences is that a lot of these founders that are doing software companies and kind of in the tech space are already very savvy in terms of using automations and AI to help them with their workflow. So really what we're kind of trying to target now is helping, more very common businesses like mom and shop pops or restaurants and stuff like that, where the owners are, super knowledgeable about their own business, but they don't necessarily understand like that there's all these little technical advantages that they can implement to help save them a lot of time. And that's really where, we feel we can provide the most help to the people that we work with.
That makes sense because, you often hear, why are you doing it that way? I don't know about
Yeah.
AJ. That's, like you said, you mentioned like Excel spreadsheets. Well, that's
Yep.
great until someone deletes it or, you're using macros,
Yeah.
blows out the macros. You're like, ah. But I think your example of the scheduling, because that's a super time consuming thing for a lot of people. Where, like you said, someone has a request, we know where the babysitters are. Hey, that's close to AJ's house, shoot that to him versus us calling on AJ, can you babysit this? It's all automated, how much time you can save. And once you
Yeah.
see stuff like that and you start using it, like, where have you been my whole life? Because it frees up time to do other more important tasks and stuff. So crystal ball
Yeah.
time, AJ, what's the future hold for the business?
Yeah. So I think that the whole idea was starting with a custom software development agency is really that we wanted to get hands-on experience and kind of see the perspective from many, many different businesses, right? They essentially right now they come to us, they tell us what their problem is, and then we work with them to kind of create a solution very similar to how a consultant works, right? And this has been super valuable in two ways. The first being, being able to build out our development team and kind of, establish the connections, see what works, see how to be efficient as possible with how we develop and how we kind of organize our development cycles. So that's been the primary thing. The secondary thing is that we've kind of been shown, all these different professionals' workflows and all these different projects that they need. And with that, we see a lot of different patterns in terms of the automations that are very similar and that a lot of people need. And ultimately, what our goal is in the future is essentially picking up on those patterns and then kind of launching these micro businesses where we develop a SaaS product that helps out, these different founders and we can do it at a much cheaper cost because the problem with custom software or, the benefit of custom software is that there's a lot of value add given that, it's highly tailored and you can make it do exactly what you want and it does it perfectly, right? The downside to it is that it's very expensive, given that you have to pay a developer to develop it entirely from scratch. On the other hand, you have kind of like the more scalable, typical software programs where it's a more general program, so not as much value add because it's more generic. But at the same time, it's a lot cheaper to reproduce because the marginal cost of copying code is extremely low. So essentially, we think there's a lot of advantages in that, but we also think there's advantages in making it super niche and micro. But yeah, the goal ultimately is launching, more specific programs at a much cheaper cost to be able to help a greater amount of people. And also there's a lot of people at Babson that are great entrepreneurs, have a very hungry mindset, want to launch some sort of business, but they don't necessarily have the technical skills to build it out. So we want to partner with a lot of Babson students first to kind of help us launch these little micro products, and then ultimately expand out to other schools where they have really good entrepreneurship programs as well. That's kind of our long-term vision of the business.
I see it the same way you do. Once we can build it, then we can just keep scaling it, help it reduce
Yeah.
costs for everyone. It makes perfect sense. What's the best way for people to reach out to if they want to learn more, my friend?
Best way to reach out is definitely on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is AJ Matise. Other way to reach out is through the contact section on our website. Our website is Reef Labs, REEFLABS.io.
Awesome. AJ, appreciate you taking a few minutes to call the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.